for Napoleon and some of these guys, they basically talk about how the more energy they give to others, the more they get back. And I think that's 100%. I feel that a lot. I feel like if I'm putting stuff out there into the world, I get insane energy back. And the moment I stop, I don't get energy. I know I'm kind of like moving to a different point.
I know.
But that's how I feel like with content. Like I described it yesterday to a friend. If I don't put something out to the world, I have like an itch all day, like until I do it. And then I do it and I feel better and I can go and relax. And I don't know what you diagnose that as, but maybe it's just like addiction to the dopamine of it, but fine. I don't care if it's helping people, like call it whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I genuinely do get energized by putting energy out into the world. And yeah, I'm drawn to people like Hunter, like Casey, like you, who have this sense of energy. That to me is like, that's what obsession is. Obsession, if you are obsessed, you have to have this thing inside you. I've always felt like I had it, just this energy that you have to, but then the challenge is you have to put it into things. And if you don't put it into things, it will drive you insane. It will, and for me, that's been a story of my life. If I didn't have a vehicle like the content, or if I didn't have running, where does all this energy go? It just sits inside of you and it kind of starts to eat you alive if you don't put it out there.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. I think like some of the most anxious people are just like the most obsessed. They just don't have anywhere to put it. So they obsess over themselves. And I've done that my whole life and I still do that. But once you get it outside of yourself, you realize how much you have to push. And the energy thing can't be fake. Some people have it. It's just intense. I call it intensity, really. It's like intensity in the eyes. You can just see it and you can't fake it.
Yeah.
But if you have it, you have to put it somewhere.
Yeah, it's funny. They did they did, I saw this picture. I'll try and send it to you. It was basically show a contrast of Tom Brady's eyes versus the quarterbacks that he beat in the different Super Bowls. Like I think it was like in the fourth quarter or something like that. And basically every other quarterback had these like very wide eyes where he has like that very, like his eyebrows are slanted down, almost like closed eyes. But to your point, it's like, it's that look and you just know it when you see it. And it's funny because anxiety is actually a good thing deep down, because I think that means that there's potential of energy that's sitting inside you. It's just not swelling and being channeled. I always think back to Jeff Bezos saying that anxiety stems from knowing that there are things that you should be doing that you're not doing. And so when you exercise that itch, maybe it's like literally for me, sometimes I'll be thinking about a piece of content or doing something for the business that I know I should be doing, and it's giving me anxiety because I'm not doing it. And literally 30 seconds into starting that task, the anxiety immediately goes away.
It's truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, sometimes when you're just doing the wrong things.
Yeah.
Like the more opportunities you get, the more you become very aware of what feels good and what doesn't, what feels like work and what just feels like obsession and play. And yeah, it's like a good like signal of, okay, this is where I actually need to be going. This is what I need to do less of. Yeah.
What advice would you have for someone in their early 20s that feels that they've been blessed by God with this amazing reservoir of energy, but they're not exercising it, and they have these large hopes and dreams, but they kind of just feel like they're flat right now and they don't really know where to start?
I would say you have to figure out how to start something and never stop. And you can pivot it, you can change it, but this one core activity, you have to start it and never stop. And you look at the people who do things in life and create things, and almost all of them have that in common, especially the ones who are like in their early 30s, late 20s, who are doing something meaningful and impacting a lot of people. That they all have been doing their thing for like a decade, and it's changed a lot. But you have to get in some arena and start playing. And most people, you spend a long time waiting. I spent like 2-3 years waiting, basically. I had the idea for a behavior hack, like my Instagram, for like 2.5 years in my notes, just sitting there. And there's a line of not being ready because you're not the right person yet. But then there's also like, I could have started it 2 years before and probably been a lot further ahead. But that's what I'd say. If you think you have that feeling, you have to enter some arena and realize that the people who create these things, they have this one core compounding thing, and they just ride it and they never stop. And yeah, I don't know. That's like the only advice I could really give.
That's a great answer. It's a powerful answer. That's
what I did. And it has to just kind of hit you. I don't remember the day I started putting out content, but whatever I decided that day changed my life forever. Right? Like I was living in the shittiest apartment in Binghamton, New York. I was paying $600 a month for rent. And one day I decided to post something on Instagram, and deciding that day, there's probably a world where that day I just didn't decide to, woke up the next day and never did it. There's probably a real world. And I would probably have started, I was trying to get hired as a medical scribe to go to med school. I'd probably be like struggling in some shitty med school right now. And yeah, that is like a very real path that I could have gone down. And something hit me that day to do it, and I never stopped. Yeah. And often you don't realize, it's like the marathon. Signing up for the marathon changed my life. I think commitment can truly breed obsession, because once you have like this game to play, this arena to enter, you realize how much you have to give, right? It gives you an opportunity, it gives you a vehicle. But before that, you're just kind of in your head. You don't know what to start. And so, yeah, it's like start something and never stop. And you could do a different thing, but it's just, the never stopping piece is key. And most people stop. But the people who don't stop, they usually get somewhere.
When you're in a state of mind where you need to go for a run and you don't want to lace up your running shoes because you're tired, or you don't want to go to the office and create that piece of content you need to create, or you don't want to go to Equinox and get a lift in, what are like your motivational focal points that kind of get you to do that work?
Well, I think, are you talking about stuff I don't want to do?
Yeah.
Like those things I never feel that way about.
You never feel that way?
No. About the things you just said, no. There's no. Not now.
Is there anything that you feel that?
Yeah,
towards?
all the time. Yeah, there's plenty of things, like answering emails, doing maybe like some type of content I don't want to make for a company, some project. 100% I feel that way. And to be honest, I don't really have great advice. Like what I do is realize I have to do it. I tend to procrastinate them because I just know that it's not what I should be doing. So for me, I'm like, in those moments, I actually just like, I don't really have good advice. Like I do them as quickly as I can and as effectively as I can. I try to treat everything as a professional and realize that I have to do these things. But then when I do them, I realize, okay, this is not the thing I should be doing.
Yeah.
I need to get back to like the other stuff. That's my obsession, building the things I'm obsessed with versus these things I force myself to do. So that's genuinely how I feel about them now. But yeah, in terms of doing them, it's just like commit to a day and put them on, do them first and get them done.
Yeah.
But my goal is to have, I mean, you'll always have stuff like that, I guess, that you don't really want to do. But this is like a bigger idea. I actively though am pivoting everything to get to a place where I don't feel that way about anything.
Yes.
And there will, like I said, be things always. But I think you can get to a place where most of the work you're doing feels just like true obsession. I think like Founders Podcast is a good example of that. David Senra. He doesn't have to force himself to do much, I don't think.
No.
I think he has to hold himself back.
No.
And that's why like the question kind of like confused me, because I actually am in like a place where most of the stuff I do is this, but there are still these little things that feel like work.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I get them done, but I'm so used to now the privilege of getting to do this stuff and having this stuff actually be like kind of like how I'm supporting myself, which is very, very lucky. And I try not to take it for granted. But yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah. It's like good impetus for hiring I feel like some of the best professionals are masters of delegation and leveraging virtual assistants and things like that. So you can get to a point where, yes, this stuff is critical work. It's the unsexy work. You don't want to do it, but you can build these systems where it's ultimately delegated. And then 99% of your time is going towards that critical work that you really want to be spending your time on.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's like, as you grow, is like, you get all these opportunities when you grow. You get all these new people and you get excited by it, but then you start to resent it because it takes you away from the thing you actually need to be doing. And that is 100% what happened to me. I think that happens to a lot of people. And I'm kind of now on the journey of kind of had a big growth period, got all these opportunities, got all these people. And now I'm trying to just get back to like not needing anybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, you need the right people. You need the right collaborations, the right partners. But like, you know what I mean? It's like, you get all these new things and then they take you away from the thing that actually matters, writing about obsession, and you have to get back. And it can be challenging.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because you put out a tweet yesterday that exploded, which is a sign that like that really resonated with a lot of people. And I think it said, loneliness at some point in your life is a requirement for delusional confidence to be born. So that's what you kind of just reminded me of.
It's the core truth, 100%. All my delusional confidence was from spending a lot of time alone in like early college. I wasn't really like this before that. I always had like some type of energy, right? Some type of intensity with soccer, but my like delusion, all these dreams were like, I call it incubation, the incubation, where it just has time to fester and sit there. It's like all these chemicals in your mind mixing together. And it was in college when I was alone a lot. I was single for most of it. And I would work out at the gym at night alone. You do that for days and months and years, and you develop something special. I think you can. And the problem comes when too many people enter and bring their kind of reality and their expectations of you into your world, when that kind of like simmers down. But if you give it a lot of time, I also spent a lot of time doing those photo booth events. I was alone. I basically worked every weekend for like 5-6 years working events. People don't realize that about me. And when they see my content, and I don't talk about it that much, but think about how much time that is alone, feeling like an outsider. I was at these weddings, but I was working. I was alone and just in my head. And I was never, ever thinking about the weddings. I was never thinking about the photo booths. I never cared about photo booths ever. It was only a vehicle to get to do the stuff I'm doing now since day one. And I cared about them in ways that they can make me money and give me freedom and be a good product. But outside of that, I don't care at all.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to that with like early businesses especially. But yeah, I would just be at these events in my head, like thinking of what I wanted to do. And like, I'm doing a lot of that stuff now and I have to remind myself. But if I didn't have that period, and I would go for long drives, man. I would go to these events. They would be hour, 2 hours, sometimes 5 hours away, just in the car alone. That changes a person. And a lot of people, I think, in their early 20s don't go through that. Most don't. Like most guys did not spend every weekend working for years.
No.
Most. That 100% changed me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so, what you're saying is so important for people to like inject that into their conscious or subconscious mind, because it's so comfortable and we're so conditioned to constantly be around other people. It's almost like if you spend time, like if you want to be by yourself, like you fit this loner archetype, which isn't true at all. I never thought about this until you're speaking, but like a lot of my most important beliefs that I've held about myself that I've developed have come from me going on a 20-mile run or being alone at the gym or getting coffee and taking a long walk by myself to almost break out of everyone's self-limiting beliefs and develop my actual beliefs about myself too. It's so important.
It's reminding yourself, like if it's being an outsider is what it really is. It's like being an outsider, I think, can be incredibly good for someone who is obsessed, because being an outsider is the only way you can kind of develop it, where no one can bother you and no one can change the way you're thinking about your work or your goals. And if you do have that tendency, the more you resist it, I think you'll start to resent these people and yourself. Yeah. And I felt that I talk about like old relationships and like painful vacations where you're not where you want to be in life, and you go on this vacation with like your girlfriend's family or something, and you're at this incredible resort, 5 stars, pina coladas, sitting by the pool, looking at the most beautiful view, but you're just in the most insane amount of pain because deep down you know that you haven't done shit.
Yeah.
And you're out there enjoying it and you feel like you're dying inside. And sure, that is ungrateful as hell, but if you have a path you're meant to go down, you have to realize that feeling.
Yes.
And I felt that feeling every single time I was doing that stuff, because I was doing that stuff. I was in a relationship and it's the stuff you do, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. You can go down and do this other thing. And the moment I realized that and accepted that I am this way and have to do these things, my whole life opened up. I want to go get that view. Give me, when I deserve it.
Yeah.
I want to pay for it. I didn't even pay for it those sometimes. And, cause it was a family thing, whatever. But yeah, it's really important. It's super important.
It's so important.